It was 11:51 p.m. when the text lit up the dark of my Yale dorm room, cutting through the silence like a strobe light. The screen was the only thing visible, casting a cold blue glow over the piles of law textbooks and the crimson sash hanging on the back of the door. I picked it up, my thumb hovering over the glass. The message from my mother Deborah was long. It was performing exhaustion before I even read the words. "We are too tired from your sister's trip to attend your graduation, honey," it read. "Just got back from Tulum with Lexi. The flights were awful. We will rest this weekend and celebrate properly when we see you next time. Love you." I read it twice, not because I was confused, but because I was verifying the data. I didn't cry. I didn't feel my heart rate spike or my hands tremble. I didn't ask why. There was no surge of betrayal, only a quiet clinical click of a lock falling into place. I typed 2 words in reply. "Rest well." I hit send. Then I turned the phone face down on the nightstand, closed my eyes, and went to sleep. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. And be honest, have you ever had to be the strong one in your family when you were actually the one hurting? I'd love to know who is part of our community. 5 a.m. came with the gray, heavy light of New Haven, the kind that makes the Gothic stone of the campus look like a fortress. I was awake before the alarm. In the bathroom mirror, my face looked the same as it always did. Calm, symmetrical, unreadable. People always told me I had a poker face, but that implied I was gambling. I wasn't. I was calculating. I dressed in crisp black trousers and a white button-down, smoothing the fabric with military precision. Most students were probably still asleep, nursing hangovers or anxiety about their speeches, but I had administrative work to do. I walked across the old campus, the morning mist clinging to the statues. The air smelled of wet earth and ancient paper. When I reached the commencement office, the head usher was just unlocking the doors. He looked surprised to see a student this early, especially the valedictorian. "Miss Mercer," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Everything all right? We have your family section reserved in row 3. "I need to make an adjustment," I said. My voice was steady, low, and devoid of apology. He pulled up the seating chart on his tablet. "Oh, adding a guest." Modifying the reservation, I corrected. "I need 4 seats in the front row. Not row 3. He hesitated. "Front row is usually for administration and honorary guests, but, given your standing, I can move some things." "Who are the names?" "First seat, Nana Rose," I said. "Second seat, Jasmine Patel. Third seat, Professor Holloway." "And the fourth?" he asked, his stylus hovering over the screen. I looked him in the eye. "Leave it empty." He blinked. "Empty? You mean just a gap?" "Yes," I said. "I have a lantern I'll be placing there." "A lantern. Okay. And your parents, your sister?" "They aren't coming," I said. It wasn't a confession. It was a statement of fact, like commenting on the weather. The empty seat is necessary. He nodded slowly, sensing the boundary I had erected, and tapped the screen. "Done. 4 seats, front row. 1 empty. Thank you." I turned and walked back out into the cool morning air. As I crossed the quad, I thought about the concept of silence. In my international law classes, we learned that silence in a deposition is often more powerful than shouting. When you stay quiet, the other person reveals themselves. They fill the void with their insecurities, their lies, their desperation. For 22 years, I had been the silent one, the observer. While my sister Lexi performed for cameras and my parents chased the spotlight of her social media fame, I had been in the background watching. I saw the credit card statements they hid. I saw the desperate need for validation that fueled their every move. They thought my silence was weakness. They thought I was the glass child, transparent, fragile, easily looked through. But they were wrong. I wasn't hiding. I was taking depositions. Every missed birthday, every forgotten award, every time they looked past me to fix Lexi's hair, it was all data. I had been building a case against them for 2 decades, and today, with 1 empty chair and a vintage lantern, I was finally going to present the evidence. I checked my watch. 6:15 a.m. The sun was breaking over the library. The trial was about to begin. To understand why I replaced my parents with a lantern, you have to understand the specific economy of my childhood home in Rust Belt, Ohio. In our house, attention was a currency, and my sister Lexi was the only authorized vendor. My parents, Deborah and Gary, were what you might call stage parents, but without the stage. They were obsessed with the idea of fame, the shimmer of it. They treated Lexi not as a daughter but as a startup company they were heavily invested in. I remember my 16th birthday vividly, not because it was a celebration but because it was a Tuesday. I came home from school to find the house empty. There was a note on the counter scribbled on the back of a utility bill. Regionals got rescheduled, driving Lexi to Dayton. Leftover meatloaf in the fridge, don't wait up. That was it. No happy birthday. No cake. Just cold meatloaf and silence. I spent the night of my 16th birthday on the floor of the living room surrounded by wires fixing the family router because my dad had complained that the internet was too slow for Lexi to upload her pageant photos. I reset the modem, reconfigured the IP address, and watched the green lights flicker back to life. I didn't cry. I just noted the efficiency of their neglect. It was cleaner this way. The defining moment, however, came senior year. I walked into the kitchen holding a letter that was heavy with thick, expensive paper. It was my acceptance to Yale, accompanied by a merit scholarship worth $120,000. No tutors, no bribes, just 4 years of sleepless nights and perfect grades. I got in, I said, placing the letter on the island. My mother looked up from her phone where she was editing the contrast on a photo of Lexi holding a milkshake. Got into what, honey? Yale. She blinked, processing the word like it was a foreign language. Oh. That's far, isn't it? My father looked up from his coffee. He didn't ask about the law program. He didn't ask about the scholarship. He asked, does the scholarship include a +1 for family visits? New York is close to Yale, right? Lexi has been dying to do a photo shoot in Times Square. We could make a trip out of it. I looked at them, and in that moment I understood the physics of my existence. I wasn't invisible. Invisibility implies you are hidden. I was something worse. I was a glass child. They looked right at me, but they didn't see me. They saw through me to the golden child standing behind me. I was just the window pane they looked through to admire the view of their own vanity. I was structural support, necessary, transparent, and utterly unappreciated until I shattered. I took the letter back off the counter. I'll check on the tickets, I lied. I went to my room and filed the letter in my desk drawer right next to the receipt for the router I had fixed 2 years prior. I realized then that I wasn't a member of a family. I was an employee in a failing business. And I had just secured a better offer. Back in New Haven, the reality of graduation morning was vibrating in the air. The heavy bronze bells of Harkness Tower were tolling a deep, resonant sound that you could feel in your chest. The campus was a sea of black robes and excitement. Everywhere I looked, students were hugging their parents, fathers were adjusting bow ties, mothers were wiping tears with embroidered handkerchiefs. I stood near the stone archway of the Sterling Law Building, watching the scene with the detached focus of an anthropologist. It was beautiful. It was sentimental. And for me, it was completely irrelevant. My phone buzzed in the pocket of my gown. A notification from Instagram. Curiosity is a flaw I haven't quite stamped out yet, so I looked. It was a post from Lexi. The photo showed her in her bedroom back in Ohio wearing a pink silk eye mask pushed up on her forehead, holding a mug of herbal tea. The lighting was perfectly staged to look natural. The caption read, "So exhausted from the launch weekend, sad to miss CC's big school thing today, but you can't pour from an empty cup. Self-care is queen. #burnout. #influencer life." I stared at the screen. CC's big school thing. She couldn't even name the university. She reduced 4 years of grueling academic warfare at an Ivy League institution to a school thing that was less important than her nap. A second later, a text from my mother popped up. "Hey honey, since we can't be there, make sure you send us a video of your speech, as soon as possible. We want to post it to the family page. Make sure you mention your sister's support in the intro. It would mean so much to her brand." The audacity was breathtaking. It was almost architecturally perfect in its selfishness. They didn't want to witness my success. They wanted to strip mine it for content. They wanted to take the one thing that was entirely mine, my intellect, my hard work, my moment, and filter it until it looked like an accessory to Lexi's life. I felt a cold smirk touch the corner of my mouth. They wanted a video. Oh, I would give them a video. But it wouldn't be the content they were hoping for. I turned to Jasmine, my best friend and fellow law student, who was adjusting her cap in the reflection of a window. "Jas," I said, holding out my phone. "Take this." She looked at me confused. "Don't you want it for photos?" "No," I said, my voice sharp and final. "I don't want to hear from them until I'm done. Record the speech though. Especially the front row." The empty chair, she asked softly. The lantern, I corrected. I straightened my sash. The gold lettering of valedictorian caught the sunlight. I wasn't a daughter today. I wasn't a sister. I was a prosecutor walking into a courtroom, and I had the closing argument of a lifetime prepared. Let's go, I said. I walked toward the stage, my heels clicking on the cobblestones with the steady, rhythmic beat of a countdown. The podium at Yale is not just a piece of furniture, it is a pulpit. Standing behind it, looking out at 3,000 faces, you feel the weight of history. But as I adjusted the microphone, I didn't feel heavy, I felt light. Dangerous. I looked down at my prepared notes, a standard speech about academic rigor and future leadership. Then I looked at the front row. There they were, Nana Rose looking fierce in her Sunday hat, Jasmine holding her phone steady, Professor Holloway nodding encouragingly, and next to them the empty wooden chair. On its seat sat the vintage kerosene lantern I had bought from an antique shop on Chapel Street. The flame inside flickered behind the glass, small but unyielding against the wind. I folded my prepared speech and slid it into the pocket of my gown. The silence in the courtyard grew thick. We are often told, I began, my voice amplified across the quad, clear and devoid of nerves, that success is about finding your light. We are told to chase the spotlight, to stand center stage, to be seen. I paused, letting the words settle. But I have learned that the spotlight is a trap. It is blinding. It is hot. And it requires someone else to point it at you. It requires you to beg for their attention, for their approval, for their gaze. I looked directly at the camera lens Jasmine was holding, knowing exactly who would eventually watch this. For years I waited for a seat at a table that never had a place card for me. I waited for the people who were supposed to support me to turn the spotlight my way. They never did, and I realized something fundamental. You cannot navigate the dark if you are waiting for someone else to light the way. I gestured to the front row. The camera followed my hand to the empty chair. That chair is empty today. The people who should be sitting there, my parents, my sister, chose not to come. They are tired. They are busy chasing spotlights. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. A collective gasp. I didn't flinch. But I didn't leave it empty to mourn them. I continued, my voice hardening into steel. I left it empty to hold this lantern. Because while the spotlight is about vanity, the lantern is about utility. It doesn't ask to be seen. It allows you to see. It guides you through the work, through the long nights, through the silence. I gripped the sides of the podium. To anyone here who has ever felt invisible, stop waiting to be chosen. Stop waiting for a seat at their table. Go to the woodshop, pick up a hammer, and build your own furniture. Carry your own light, because the only applause that matters is the sound of your own footsteps keeping moving forward. The silence held for 1 second, 2 seconds, and then it shattered. The applause wasn't polite, it was visceral. Students were standing, cheering, some wiping eyes. But I didn't cry. I looked at the lantern burning steadily in the empty seat, and I felt a profound sense of closure. By the time the ceremony ended, the clip was already circling the globe. My phone blew up with notifications. CNN, MSNBC, The New York Times. I handed the device to a frantic press officer from the university. I will do the interview with Anderson Cooper, I said calmly. But we will discuss meritocracy and the psychology of neglect. If he asks about my family's personal drama, the interview ends. I didn't call home. I didn't check my texts. I went to dinner with Nana Rose and Jasmine, and for the first time in my life I ordered dessert. 48 hours later, the euphoria of graduation had settled into the grim reality of cleanup. I was in my apartment packing boxes when Nana Rose called. Sienna, she said. Her voice wasn't warm. It was urgent. Have you seen what they did? Who? Your parents. Check your email. I sent you the link. I walked over to my laptop and opened the link. It was a page for a crowdfunding site, and the title made the bile rise in my throat, the Mercer Foundation Supporting Genius. Below the title was a photo of me, one I hadn't authorized, taken from my high school yearbook. And then the text. We are the proud parents of Sienna Mercer, the viral Yale valedictorian. We sacrificed everything, mortgaging our home and working double shifts to send our brilliant daughter to the Ivy League. Her speech was a beautiful tribute to the tough love independence we taught her. Now help us support other parents raising geniuses. Join our Patreon for exclusive family stories and advice on raising successful kids. They had raised $12,000 in 6 hours. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake. My breathing didn't hitch. Instead, my brain shifted gears. The daughter was gone. The lawyer was in the room. They mortgaged the home, I whispered to the empty room. That's a lie. I turned to my bookshelf and pulled down a thick black binder. I called it my evidence binder. I had started keeping it when I was 14, realizing that in my house truth was a fluid concept. I flipped it open. Tab 1, the scholarship letter. Full tuition, room and board covered by Yale. Tab 2, my bank statements from working 3 jobs. Tab 3, the wire transfers, I sent them when Dad got behind on the car payments. Tab 4, the deed to their house, which I knew from public records had been fully paid off 5 years ago. They hadn't mortgaged a cent. This wasn't just bad parenting anymore. It was fraud, wire fraud, theft by deception. They were using my name and a fabricated narrative to solicit money from strangers. I picked up my phone and dialed Dean Holloway. He answered on the second ring. Sienna, I saw the page. It's disgusting. It's illegal, I corrected, my voice crisp. I have the financial records proving I paid for my own education. I have proof they are lying to investors, donors, whatever they are calling them. I need to draft a cease and desist. I can have it ready in an hour, Holloway said. Do you want to send it? No, I said, closing the binder with a sharp snap. I want to serve it. They texted me saying they're driving up to New Haven to surprise me. They think they're coming for a victory lap. I looked at the lantern sitting in the corner of my room. Let them come, I said. I'll set an extra place at the table. They arrived at my apartment with the subtlety of a marching band. I heard them in the hallway before they knocked my mother's high-pitched laughter, the click of Lexi's heels, my father's booming voice talking on the phone. They expected champagne. They expected a strategy meeting for Team Mercer. I opened the door. The apartment was dim, lit only by candles. The table was set with 4 bowls and a loaf of sourdough bread. Surprise, Mom shrieked, attempting to hug me. I stepped back, precise and smooth, treating the embrace like an oncoming vehicle I needed to dodge. Dinner is ready, I said. Sit. They sat confused by the austerity. Lexi looked around the room, her phone out. It's a little dark in here, Cece. Can we get a ring light? I want to live stream the reunion. Phones away, I commanded. My tone was not a request. It was a gavel bang. Lexi froze, then slowly lowered the device. We ate the tomato soup in silence. The only sound was the scraping of spoons against ceramic. When the bowls were empty, my father cleared his throat. So, Sienna, he started, leaning back. We've been fielding calls all day. Good Morning America wants an exclusive with the whole family. And we were thinking with the foundation money coming in, we could hire a proper PR firm. Really capitalize on this genius family brand. Yeah, Mom added, her eyes gleaming. People love the story of how we pushed you to be independent. It's very on trend. I wiped my mouth with a napkin, folded it into a perfect square, and placed it on the table. There is no foundation, I said. Dad frowned. What do you mean? We launched it yesterday. It's already trending. I reached under the table and pulled out the black binder. I slid it across the wood. It stopped exactly in front of my father. That is a cease and desist order, I said. Along with a file of 22 bank statements dating back to my freshman year. Dad opened the folder. His face went pale as he looked at the highlighted rows. You claimed on a public platform that you mortgaged the house to pay for my tuition, I said, my voice ice cold. That is wire fraud. I have the deed proving the house is paid off. I have the scholarship letter proving Yale paid my tuition. And I have the receipts for the $3,000 I sent you last winter so the car wouldn't get repossessed. Sienna, Mom stammered, we're family. You can't sue us. You aren't family, I replied. You are a liability. And I am mitigating my risk. We raised you, Dad shouted, slamming the folder shut. We gave you the space to become this. From the corner of the room, a voice cut through the air like a knife. Nana Rose stepped out of the shadows. I had invited her, but she had stayed quiet until now. Space, Nana asked, walking to the table. She looked at Deborah, her own daughter, with a gaze that could peel paint. You didn't give her space, Deborah. You gave her neglect. You ignored a child for 20 years until she raised herself. She leaned down, her hands flat on the table. Do not take credit for a sculpture you never touched. The room went dead silent. Lexi looked from me to the binder, terror in her eyes. For the first time she realized that her internet fame, her likes, her brand, it was all smoke. I held the fire. I looked at my father. You have 24 hours to refund every single donation and take down the page. If you don't, I will release this binder to the reporter who interviewed you this morning, and I will prosecute." "You wouldn't," Mom whispered. "Try me," I said. "I'm the one who built the furniture. I know exactly how to break it down." They left 5 minutes later. There were no goodbyes, no hugs, just the sound of heavy footsteps retreating down the hallway, escaping the gravity of the truth I had finally spoken. I locked the door and leaned my forehead against the cool wood. I waited for the crash, the tears, the guilt, the old familiar ache of being the unloved daughter. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt lighter. It was the feeling of dropping a heavy pack after a long hike. The air in the apartment felt cleaner. Nana Rose was washing the soup bowls in the sink. She didn't say anything. She knew I didn't need comforting. I needed witnessing. And she had witnessed it. I walked out to the small balcony overlooking New Haven. The city lights were twinkling below, thousands of little lives playing out in the dark. I breathed in the night air, smelling rain and exhaust and freedom. When I went back inside, I picked up the wooden chair I had used for the speech. I carried it to the corner of the living room near the bookshelf filled with my law texts. I placed the vintage lantern on the seat. I didn't light it. I didn't need to. It sat there, sturdy and permanent. For years I had looked at empty chairs and seen rejection. I saw the space where love should have been. But tonight, looking at that chair, I saw something different. I saw room. Room to grow. Room to breathe. Room to build a life that didn't require anyone's permission to exist. "Some people will never show up," I whispered to the empty room. "And that's okay, because the space they leave behind, that's where you build your empire." I left the chair there. A monument to the girl who stopped waiting and the woman who finally walked into her own light. If you have ever had to build your own seat because no one saved one for you, share this story. Let's remind the world that we don't need permission to shine. I'm Sienna Mercer, and this is for the ones who show up.